Welcome to another edition of Patty and the Millennials. I'm Patty Jackson, the baby boomer, and it's fascinating conversation with amazing young women. Millennials, Gen X. We've got vlogger Shanine Speaks. We've got producer Tamara Stewart, Lisa Collins representing Gen X. We've got Chocolate Divinity, LaToya Charleston. We've got Mina Say What from the Power 99 Rise and Grind Morning Show. And we have a very special guest that's joining us for the podcast. Janice Armstrong is a writer for the Inquirer and the Daily News. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us, ladies. We're getting a little serious today. Next week, I promise we'll talk sex. We're going to talk about racism in the United States. Do you think it's one race's responsibility for fixing the problem? One thing that I've noticed, because most people, all they know is President Obama as their president.
Right.
So they're thinking, oh, racism is over. No, it's very much alive. I'm bowling down your alley, Tam.
Yeah. No, and I think in previous topics we discussed this. I don't think it's just one race, one nationality, one person's responsibility to take over. I think in order for the nation itself to be on board, it needs to be a community-based, attempt, a community-based trial. And it's like, no matter what one person can advocate for, who's behind them, who's standing behind them, that's going to be able to actually bring those problems and issues forward. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing as a community that's going to break up the dividedness of racism?
Is it up to one race, Shanine? Do you think it's up to one race?
No, I think that we have to come together. However, I do think that one particular race needs to initiate the acknowledgement of what's going on and what has been going on and the design that our country has been under since our country began. So, yes, I think that in terms of, let's just be real with it. African American, black and white, in terms of a system of America, we know that that's not the only type of racism that exists, but that is the majority of what we're dealing with. That's the bulk. That is the root of where it's coming from. So, yes, I do believe Caucasians should step up and say, I've always said maybe in a government eye, maybe there's a meeting, maybe a party, maybe something, some type of panel to say, okay, we acknowledge this has happened. This is what's going on. We acknowledge our part in this. And African Americans, yes, let's not constantly place blame. Let's step up in our community. Let's do what we need to do. Let's feed ourselves. Let's have the revolution that we say that we need, but in the terms of just coming together and knowing where we come from and having that information and being knowledgeable and saying enough is enough.
Lisa, there's a lot of, as I said, they only know Obama as the president.
Yes.
You have a lot of black people who think that racism, is over and that there is no racism, and they get a serious wake-up call.
It's interesting. I think some of it's generational. I think racism is perpetuated as a taught, absolutely a taught behavior, a learned behavior. So in some ways you have generationally where it's been perpetuated through generations. But the other thing that happens is I think younger people are less in tune to feel the same way about it. In my family alone, I have nieces and nephews who've married, and we have Caucasian, we have Asian, we have Latino, and that's also, I have nieces and nephews who are a beautiful mixture of all kinds of things, and I think that happening is changing the way that the world looks at it. The other thing that's happening is the number of minority people in this country is shifting, and within just a few years, the number of non-white people will exceed the number of white people in this country. It's going to be interesting then to see how that balance works out.
Mina, is America becoming more racist?
I don't think it's becoming more. I think it's always been very prevalent. I think as millennials, we're very lucky where we grew up seeing different things, different families, family matters, girlfriends on TV. We saw a lot of melting and a lot of just diverse dating, just diverse couples. But I think people need to take personal responsibility, because I do believe that racism is something that's taught, but I also believe it comes from ignorance. If all your friends look like you and they are like you need to take it upon yourself to make sure that you're doing what you need to do in order to get to know other people. I feel like a lot of the times racism is rooted in stereotypes. And if you don't have any friends that can break those stereotypes, you're going to continue to think whatever it is that you were taught or whatever you learned, whatever you watched, whatever you read on the internet, it will influence you. So I know that I've always strived to have different kinds of friends. I'm very fortunate where I grew up. I have, my mom dated a black man forever. I was around Spanish people. I went to school with white people in Syracuse. I have a very good mix of friends. And I think that if your friends look like you and are exactly like you and think the same way, you need to take it upon yourself to get new friends and really explore some differences of people, races, and opinions.
Okay. Latoya, you had a little screw face when I talked about, people. There are people, African Americans, who think that racism has gone away until they get that wake up call.
Yeah, because that N-word wake up call is a sobering moment. I'm like, where did you grow up? Or I guess maybe if you've lived in a certain part of a country, and like you said, you have friends who are very multicultural based, and you haven't, I don't want to say you haven't had the displeasure of running into that. But I grew up a military brat, so luckily I've been able to see all kind of facets of the country and just different opinions, different ideologies. And again, when you get that N-word, I remember the first time it was called toward my direction. My little brother, he was the happiest baby ever, probably about 2, would say hi to people. I was about 8 years old, and this white guy walked past, and he said, "Shut up, N-word." And I knew instantly, we lived in Virginia at the time, but I knew instantly it wasn't right. So, and just being a child of 8, like how that made me feel, like I instantly felt shamed. It was weird. So that was a bit sobering for me, but to fix the problem, it's everyone's problem. This is an American problem. And it's funny when people from the outside of one's community will say, "I'll tell you what's going on in the black community." No, the black community is your community. The white community is our community. Until America starts looking at each other as one, nothing's ever going to change.
Martin Luther Chocolate Divinity. Janice Armstrong is joining us in your years of being a writer and just seeing all facets of life. Do you think it's one race that's responsible, when they say, let's fix the problem of racism?
They always seem to lay it at the feet of African Americans. I think of all the emails I get every single day where they're blaming black people for, all the crime in the city and things like that. And it's always black people's problems. If only you would dress differently, speak differently, behave differently, everything would be all right. And that's not what it's about, because the majority of black people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm sitting here thinking about a story that's in today's paper that I wrote about some girls at Temple University. They attended private schools and they ended up at Temple. They go on campus. They're black girls from around the country, and some kid thinks it's funny and puts a banana on the outside of their dormitory. On the door handle to their dormitory suite. I'm really proud of how those young ladies recognized it for what it was and how they stood up and fought back, and and that kid is in the process of being disciplined, the one who did it. And what's interesting is that you think who did it, but the young man who they have pointed out, I'm not going to name him, but he's not of the race you might imagine. And it really surprised them. And they were like, how could you do this? Especially because you belong to a minority group yourself. How can you kind of come at us this way? So I don't know. It really distresses me to see how this is happening still. You see younger people and you think things have changed. And then things like this happen and you realize things haven't changed all that much. And something happened at Cabrini College on Saturday, too, where the girl came back to her room and it said, "Go away," N-word on her door. I mean, we hear these things all the time, and they happen in workplaces with nooses, like at the Mint. The Mint is right downtown and right in Center City, where the guy made the noose and left it at his black colleague's workstation. And then there was the black and the white guy who hung the noose in Center City. This kind of stuff happens all the time, and we're not just talking about racist symbols, but people getting pulled over unjustly. I could go on and on, but let me just stop.
I think it's a conversation that we can always say will never, ever get old. We can talk about all the different experiences, but again, it's like, what are we actively doing in our community to change these outlets? It's like, we've all been in multicultural areas. Why aren't things changing? Why aren't we making it a point to be active, like organizations being active every single day. You hear about these marches that only happen like, when Trump becomes an administration, but what are we actively doing throughout his administration or even off times that are constantly bringing awareness? You know what I mean? What's the follow through for that?
Ladies, very interesting. Who believes in karma?
Me. I do all day, every day.
Okay.
She is a bee.
Yes. So karma is real. Why?
Karma is, I feel like, the universe's way of making you eat your own stuff. I feel like I firmly believe in whatever you put out into the world comes back to you. And a lot of the times we do things to other people or we put things out into the world and we don't realize how they affect others because we're not in their shoes. We don't know what they're feeling. We don't know what they're thinking. Karma is the universe's way of saying, hello, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Let's make you feel this so you understand, so you don't do it to someone else again. I always say, try to treat people the way that you want to be treated. If someone treats you like crap, make sure you treat them like crap. You know what I'm saying? If someone treats you good, make sure you treat them good. And I just think karma is a way of making people eat their own crap when they put it out there.
Okay, Shanine, karma.
Absolutely. Karma is the nucleus of being. It's in every doctrine. In the Bible, they say you reap what you sow. In Buddhism, they talk about karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, they talk about what goes around comes around. So it's how we being. Energy is not lost nor destroyed. It's transferred from one party to the next. So that's what it is. So when you do something, absolutely. My favorite quote is what goes around comes around. And if God really loves you, he'll let you watch. Yes. That is so true. Oh. You know what I mean? It is so true. Wow. And it's just it's life's way of letting you know sometimes you don't always have to do to get back because life will do it for you. Right. Just let them F up enough, you know? And some things will happen. So absolutely, I believe in karma. Every doctrine talks about it, and it's just the nucleus of life.
Wow, Janice, in news and pop culture, a lot of cheating.
What you talking about?
Is that where this is coming from?
And there is a saying, be careful how you get them because you could lose them. That's how you lose them.
Interesting. I don't think the lady you're talking about is going anywhere. No, this is bigger.
I don't think so either.
That kind of thing. I mean, we've seen some pretty famous political couples who have been able to weather similar storms.
Hillary Clinton.
Marriage is a complicated thing. And people get into it for all kind of reasons, and it's not always going to break up because of something like that. So this is just a stumble. I predict she'll be getting a very nice piece of jewelry, and things will just move on.
Yes. Tam.
Patty.
When people show you how they are, should you believe them? In dealing with karma, because a lot of times, I'm Queen Petty. I am Petty L. Jackson.
Petty LaBelle.
Petty LaBelle. But sometimes, getting back to what you said, Shanine, if we're patient, it'll come back around.
I just wait for it. I'm just be sitting here.
I'm just staring at the clock, huh?
Just wait for it. No, I do think over time things will happen. Things happen for a reason. You go through storms, you come out of the storm, it's springtime. There's different things that are going to happen in your life, but it's how you overcome it. But I absolutely think that if somebody does you wrong, just wait for it. Why are you sitting there stressing over it? I'm adulting really well, guys. I just want you to recognize this because I wasn't like this a year ago. But I used to stress over what other people did to me and how I felt like I was being treated. But I was like, you know what? God got this. Right. God's going to take care of me. I'm going to wait for it.
Okay. I'm the queen of ignore. I'm like, if you've done something to me, I will ignore you, and I'll let the universe deal with you.
You sound like Cardi.
I am the queen of ignore.
I can look at you with a smile because I know what's coming. You did me wrong. Hey, you know what? That's too bad you're that way, but I know what's coming for you. So hey, sorry, not sorry.
Chocolate divinity.
Oh, that universe is set up in a certain type of way.
Yes, ma'am.
It's coming back, whether you know it or not. And I won't badmouth you, especially when you don't. I mean, here's my motto. If you're not trying to stop my money, if you're not trying to kill my cat or anyone in my family, I'm like, let bygones be bygones. But you cannot do people wrong in life and think that nothing is going to happen to you. It's funny. Just recently, you speak to exes and might have done you wrong. I don't hold grudges, but it's funny, like speaking to them now, I'm like, look at God work. Look at him work. Thank you. I might have been in tears at that
Yes,
time,
yes.
but that bullet was dodged for
Hello.
a reason. And yeah, you might have did me dirty, and the petty in me kind of likes to keep in touch with certain people just so I can see how everything pans out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes a no can be a very big blessing. Denise Armstrong, thank you. Thank you. She writes columns for the Daily News and the Inquirer. Thank you for being part of our conversation.
Thanks for having me. Invite me again, please.
I am going to invite you. Janine Speaks, Tamara Stewart, Lisa Collins, LaToya, Martin Luther King, Charles Smith. She was like breaking that down. And Mina Say What from our Power 99 morning show. You can check out the podcast, Patty and the Millennials, on the iHeartRadio app. Download it. It's free and on WDASFM.com.